various companies.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion, also brought to you by Gassem Cement, the nation builder. Vodafone, the future is exciting, ready, as well as Nationwide Health Insurance, your healthcare family. In the last few hours, the Bank of Ghana has dropped another bombshell. 23 savings and loans company, many of them high profile, have been shut down, and includes a number of big names like GN Savings and Loans, that used to be a bank that was downgraded on request to a savings and loans bank. Has also, their licenses have been revoked as of tonight. We're going to go through it for you and tell you why they have been their licenses have been revoked tonight. But most importantly, if you're wondering how this affects you, we have explanations for you from the Bank of Ghana. We'll be analyzing this with some of the affected banks, the Association of Savings and Loans themselves, who are raising concerns about the approach the Bank of Ghana had taken tonight. Also speaking to banking experts who have been studying this and know what really went into this. I've just been joined in the studio by my colleagues, George Yafe, Business News Editor, and my colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Joseph, I want to start with you with the specifics as we have it from the Bank of Ghana. Let's start with the question of why. Why the Bank of Ghana had taken the decision to do this at this time?
Well, they say this has become necessary because the said institutions are insolvent even after a reasonable period was given to them, within which the Bank of Ghana engaged with them, hoping that they will be able to recapitalize and that their shareholders would help bring them back to solvency. That hasn't happened, and that is the Bank of Ghana's assessment that these institutions have no reasonable prospect of recovery, and that their continued existence will pose very severe risk to the stability of the financial system and also to the interest of their depositors, which is why they are taking.
We have more for you in terms of the specifics of how the Bank of Ghana came to this particular conclusion that these institutions were insolvent and could not continue to operate. But I want to quickly run through for you the names of these institutions, the specific institutions concerned tonight. These institutions, there are 23 of them. Their licenses have tonight been revoked. So as of tonight, they do not exist. They cannot operate again, taking your money and holding it for you as a savings and loans company. One, Ascent Financial Services Limited, Adom Savings and Loans Limited, All Time Finance Limited, Alpha Capital Savings and Loans Limited, ASN Financial Services Limited, CDH Savings and Loans Limited, Commerce Savings and Loans Limited, Crest Finance House Limited, Dream Finance Company Limited. And there's a very interesting story about Dream Finance Company Limited that we'll bring to you shortly. We're learning a bit more about why the licenses have been revoked as well. Express Savings and Loans Company Limited, First African Savings and Loans Company Limited, First Allied Savings and Loans Company Limited, First Ghana Savings and Loans Company Limited, First Trust Savings and Loans Loans Limited, Global Access Savings and Loans Company Limited, GN Savings and Loans. This is a headliner name in there because of the circumstances surrounding which what used to be the GM Bank became a Savings and Loans Company Limited. We know is owned by Dr. Parkwesi Indom, who in 2016 was the PPP presidential candidate and holds many other business interests as well across the country. And the bank that now became Savings and Loans have today also been revoked. Their licenses have been revoked as well by the central bank. Other institutions that have been affected: Ideal Finance Limited, IFS Financial Services Limited, Legacy Capital Savings and Loans Limited, Midland Savings and Loans Company Limited. We all remember Midland Savings and Loans, don't we? When the market woman went there to withdraw her money and she could not be giving, and the woman ended up being assaulted. It became a trending news story. The bank was sued, led by lawyer Samson Lala, who represented this market woman. The woman was settled. The bank settled the case out of court. Midland, the license have now been revoked by the central bank, Sterling Financial Services Limited, UniCredit Savings and Loans Limited. Another very interesting story there. And George is here with me. George, UniCredit is the only existing offshoot of the Unibank group, I guess.
No, not necessarily if you want to look at maybe there's the direct deposit taking institutions or something, because don't forget that the group has some insurance companies that are still existing. But for yes, of course, UniCredit is part of the Dufour Financial
Empire.
Holding, or maybe Empire. Sorry, yeah, you're right on that one.
Yeah, so when the Unibank went under, UniCredit did not, because they were in a different tier of a financial
category. And don't forget that the connectedness, if I can use that English, because again, if the bank that holds a lot of this company's funds has gone down, that means that it would definitely have some impact on this savings and loans company.
Okay, so that's UniCredit Savings and Loans Limited, also gone under tonight. And the final is Women's Wealth Banking Savings and Loans Company Limited. 23 of them.
You're talking about GMB in the high there. I also look at CDH Savings and Loans. I'll look at Women's Wealth Banking.
Yes.
And I stand to be corrected, because it appears DataBank had some interest in that one.
In
as well.
which of them? CDH
the Women's World Banking.
Okay.
So whether it's the banking division or as the separate savings and loans, we need clarity. So these might be the big fish or big institutions that have been affected by this.
Yeah.
CDH, GN, and Women's World Savings and Loans.
Let's break it down a bit more. Gakpo is still with me. Gakpo, a comprehensive assessment of the savings and loans and finance house subsectors were carried out by the Bank of Ghana, right? And this is what led to this. What did they find?
So they found that the level of capital that was held by some of these savings and loans companies and also the financial houses were in violation of the minimum regulatory capital requirements as is stated in Act 930. And according to the Bank of Ghana, this made it precarious for these institutions to continue to undertake the business of specialized deposits taking and all. The Bank of Ghana again says after this comprehensive analysis assessment was done, they found out that there was excessive risk taking without the required risk management function, and to manage the risk exposure that would have followed.
This next discovery by the Bank of Ghana is interesting, because it appears they also found same when they had to revoke the license of some of the banks. So, for example, they also found that these savings and loans companies use depositors' funds to finance personal or related party projects or businesses on terms that were not commercial, leading to little or no income accruing to the relevant savings and loans companies or finance house companies, and thereby compounding their liquidity challenges.
And there is an example of that when you get to the details of GN Bank, for example, that we'll tell you in a while. But the Bank of Ghana also found that there was corporate governance weakness with weak board oversight and poor accountability.
One of those things that always has been named.
Even with the collapse of the
And
banks.
here's another thing that I found interesting. There was also, according to the Bank of Ghana, creative governance, creative accounting practices, and the provisioning for impaired assets. We need to get Nano Champon when he joins us to try and help us explain that with the Bank of Ghana's prudential rules and failure to implement Bank of Ghana on-site examination recommendations, George.
So when it comes to these accounts and finances, there are certain rules that you have to comply with in terms of having funds that you might struggling to recover and all those things. And it looks like those basic accounting principles in terms of funds that have gone out, you need to make some provision for in your account and all those things. It looks like most of them were not complying with that. And some will say that this has been an age-old problem, that maybe the Bank of Ghana focused so much on the commercial banks and they didn't do much on these non-banking institutions in terms of supervision, the preparation of accounts, and which of the funds you should use and all the rest. And that was the problem. And that is why we have been exposed to some of these challenges, forcing them to take this regulatory action.
George, quickly break it down for me in terms of all these institutions are not the same in terms of
You're right
what
on
they
that
do.
one.
So break it down for me.
So we can tell you that for the savings and loans companies, there are about 37, if you're right. Now, 15 of them have lost their license to operate as a savings and loans company. We have 8 finance houses. We have 1 leasing company, 1 remittance company, making the 23 financial institutions that have their license have been revoked.
Okay, now
So-
I want to break down even further, because if you look at the Bank of Ghana statement, it says that this marks the completion of the cleanup of the banking, specialized deposit taking, and non-bank financial institution sectors, which began in August 2017 with UT and others going under. Right, so that's a Bank of Ghana saying that this is where we've done. We're complete. Now it goes to break down so far how many of these institutions have been their licenses have been revoked. It says a revocation of license of 9 universal banks. Right. 347 microfinance companies have gone under as a result of this cleanup, of which 155 had already ceased operations before they were even shut down. There are 29 microcredit companies or money lenders that had also, been revoked, 10 of which had already ceased operations. Then there are 15, which is what you mentioned. 15 savings and loans companies, 8 finance house companies, 2 non-bank financial institutions that had already ceased operations. Now, this is the big question on the back of what has happened tonight. What is going to happen to your savings? The deposits that are already there. Joseph, the Bank of Ghana explains that. What is going to happen to your savings on the back of what has happened tonight?
So they are giving the assurance that the funds in question will not be lost. To quote specifically from the statement that was put out by the Bank of Ghana, they are giving the assurance to all the depositors that government has actually made some necessary allocation based on which the receiver will ensure that those whose monies have been deposited there will be able to get their monies back, even as work goes on to retrieve money that has been credited to individuals and organizations from these financial institutions, which should again be used to help ensure that the depositors' funds are not.
If you're listening to us tonight and any of the institutions I've mentioned, you're probably worried. Don't panic. That's the most important thing. Do not panic, because the receiver, and I'll tell you who that receiver is. George will explain to us shortly who the person is, will in due course make an announcement with regards to when and where payments will be made. And so just hold your fire, be calm, that will happen. This is assurance on the Bank of Ghana that in due course the receiver will make an announcement with regards to when and where payments will be made to you if you have funds in these institutions already. Now the receiver will also indicate documents you will have to present, to facilitate the validation of your claims and orderly payment of validated deposits. And so also just pay attention to the dailies, listen to Joy News. When we get that clarity on the documents you have to present to validate your claim so you'll be paid, we will tell you. Also, other creditors of the failed institutions will be settled by the receiver upon validation of their claims, and to the extent that the receiver is able to realize value from the remaining assets of these institutions. So this is very important information for people out there who had monies with these savings and loans companies, GN Savings and Loans and others, who may be worried tonight what is going to happen to your money. The Bank of Ghana says, be rest assured, because we have appointed a receiver who is Mr. Eric Nipa, right?
Yeah.
Who is he?
He is a partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and that's where he works as an accountant. And for some of these things, you want somebody with a deeper understanding in this whole financial and accounting thing. So therefore, he's going to lead the process as an individual. That is Eric Nipa. He's going to lead this process. Don't forget that this was the same person who actually worked on the microfinance companies when the Bank of Ghana had to revoke the licenses of these firms. So Eric Nipa is going to be the individual leading the process as an entity, as a person, together with persons he might bring on board to help, because this thing is so huge. Remember, some of these companies have branches in Tamale and all the rest and blah blah. So he brings on board some private persons to support him in executing this action on directives of the Bank of Ghana.
Okay, George, stay with me. I want to bring in Nana Otoi Champon, who is a banking consultant, who of course has followed this all through. Nana, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Evening, Evans.
Your reaction to this latest? The Bank of Ghana says this marks the completion of the cleanup. What's your reaction to this latest announcement?
First, my question is why August? It appears everything is happening in August, isn't it? 14th August, 1st August, and now we've got 16th of August. Anyway, that's
What's your own reading into why August?
Yes, I keep wondering whether the governor's birthday is in August, but I believe it's not.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this as the statement has said, complete the exercise to clean the 5 sectors of the banking and specialized deposit taking institutions, i.e., the universal banks have been cleaned now. Then savings and loans, which we had 39, have been cleaned. Finance houses, which we had 22, have been cleaned. And microfinance has been cleaned. Now, the one left is the rural banks. But rural banks, their problem is different from this negative capital. So that's one the regulator said they are working with their primary regulator, because, with rural banks, the primary regulator is Apex, and then the secondary regulator is Bank of Ghana. So they are working with them to sort it out. So that completes the exercise now. Now, the good thing about all this is certainty is now in the banking sector. Now people shouldn't be looking with any ifs, because by the close of next month, Act 931 will be in place, which is the Deposit Insurance Act, whereby if anything of this sort happens, they are guaranteed a certain amount. Now, in the meantime, the government is the one which is taking the bucket of this. They are going to pay every single depositor any money they have in any of these institutions, as was done in the universal banking sector. Some 13 billion was paid. Now, in the savings and loans and finance, the was asking 7 billion. I don't know as of now whether my team has been talking up the negative capital that the savings and loans had. By the way, I get 16 savings and loans and 7 finance houses, but their summary says 15 and 8. So we've been robust. I won't bother about that. Now, for their negative capital loan, the savings and loans is 1.752 billion. That is the negative capital before you have the creditors that have got to be paid. That is people's savings and so on. So the assurance that we can give to the public is, as happened in the universal banking system, as is happening in the microfinance system, where almost 1 billion was allocated to feed to people's savings. The same assurance, I believe, goes for the savings and loans and the finance houses, that nobody will lose a penny. Everybody will get their money.
Yeah, and there's a question there, because there are many still today who, since 2017 when they started, still complain that they are still struggling to get their monies back. And so
because of the commingling, you see, now that we've finished with the finance houses and the savings and loans, there is no hanging, because if you take the universal bank, since that one we can give us an example. Beige Bank, they had Beige Bank and Beige Capital. Now, Beige Capital was the investment arm. If you took money there, they will give you a fee that they have taken 100,000 from you. Now, they then decide which of the amount to be kept in Beige Bank and which of that amount will be sent to Beige Capital. So, and the Beige Capital side will come under, investment company, which is under SEC. So these were some of the problems that was causing. So now that all the 5 sectors have been resolved, all the hanging over, should now be settled. The reconciliations will be done, and I'm sure everybody will now get their. Of course, it won't be instantly, but given some few months, I'm sure everybody will get their money back.
And then I'm grateful that you joined us with that clarity. That's Nana Tuichampon, the banking consultant, helping us, walk through what is going to happen now. He's also certain that the payments will be made. I guess it's the most important thing to say tonight. On the back of the 23 savings and loans companies going under as well. So if you're just waking up, don't know what has happened, in the last few hours, the Bank of Ghana has announced that 23 savings and loans companies, their licenses have been revoked. They've been shut down effective immediately. And this includes some big names, GN Savings and Loans, First Allied Savings and Loans, CDH Savings and Loans, also the Women's Wealth Banking Ghana Limited is also gone under. George, I'll come to you. There's some information you want to share with us. But as we're talking about this, there are people who are reacting to this news in real time. Kamala has been tracking that. He's just been to the GN Savings and Loans and Midlands. Kamala is on the line with me. Kamala, what did you find?
Well, Evans, I've been to at least 3 offices of GN Savings and Loans, the Asylum Down head office, and also the Coconut Grove area branch. And I have to tell you that when we got there, it was almost close of business. So some of the workers of the companies were rushing out of the office. They had actually closed work for the day. They were moving out. At the head office, not much activity was going on there. At the Coconut Grove branch, we are told that in the last few months, say 3 to 4 months, there's not been enough activity at the premises because of the issues that we know has bedeviled the savings and loans company the last few months. And so I moved to the Mata Market area where there is another branch of GN Savings and Loans. And I've been speaking to some of the people here. Not many people had mastered, but we were told by some of the traders here that around midday, several customers thronged the premises to demand answers from management of the savings and loans company about what the status of their funds is. I spoke to one customer who actually stays with Midland Savings and Loans, which is one of the companies that's been affected by the Bank of Ghana's latest directive today. She tells me that she saved over 20,000 CDs with the company, and she doesn't know what happens to all that amount of money which is currently locked up with Midland Savings and Loans. She says several attempts in the last week to get management to give them some answers as to how they're going to be able to get their money have proven futile. And also, in the middle of the interview, Evans, I have to say, she actually broke down and she was essentially crying that 20,000 CDs of her money, hard-earned money she used to do her export and import business, currently locked up. And with the revocation of the license of the company, she doesn't know what is going to happen to the money. So she's calling for some clarity, exactly what is going to happen to them as customers, and if there's a roadmap, for example, to get them to be able to get their monies. That is the question. That's the question on the minds of some of these customers. So, Evans, that's the general situation here. Right now, in front of the Midland Savings and Loans Company here at Malamata, close of business day, so the premise is currently shut. No activity whatsoever here as we speak to you, Evans.
Very interesting situation there with what you're finding. Kamala, thank you very much. We'll get to Kumasi very shortly. And as I say, this is affecting lives. It's not just a news item. It's affecting lives. The thousands, possibly millions of people who may have savings with these savings and loans companies who tonight are waking up to hear that the company that they trusted and put their funds in simply does not exist. You could just imagine the shock and the discomfort and distress they will be in tonight. And the assurance we are getting from the Bank of Ghana, as we've already said, is that do not panic, because they've appointed a receiver, Mr. Nipa, who they are assuring will pay you what you in fact have invested with any of these savings and loans. You just have to present the right documents. Bank of Ghana says they will announce shortly what documents you need to provide to get the monies that you have. Now, I wanted to take you to some more specifics of some of these various institutions that have gone under tonight. We'll start with one very interesting one, one that stood, seen as very credible, Women's Wealth Banking Ghana, because of its association with very reputable, institutions in that sector.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, Evans, you're right on that one. So let's read something small on Women's World Bank in Ghana for you. It is a savings and loans company. It's a non-bank financial institution in Ghana, which has been licensed by the Bank of Ghana to take deposits from the public and provide credit and other services to business community in general. Women's World Bank in Ghana has been incorporated since 1982. It has a total client base of 100 and 20,000 spread across the country. Women's World Banking has a consortium which includes Structured Capital Limited, in quote, the parent company of Databank Group.
So that is an important point to note, that it has a consortium which includes Structured Capital
Limited,
the parent company of Databank Group.
Yeah.
Okay.
And good. Well, so it confirms that Databank Group has some holding in this company.
And this is only interesting because Databank was co-founded by the current finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta.
Yeah.
And so that makes it interesting.
Yeah.
And it raises questions about and if we're going to go into what the Bank of Ghana found when they started probing into Women's World Banking Ghana Limited, what they found very shortly. But what we're establishing clearly is that Databank had some interest in it as well. George.
Yeah. So indeed, these are the board of directors of Women's World Banking, per what they provided on their website. We don't know whether it has been updated. We have Kuja Dimensa, he's the board chairman. Ninja, I hope I got the name right. Caroline Dorcas Boa Chedi, I hope I also got, and Charlotte Lily Beidou, and Selom Adadivo, he is the chief executive of MTN. He's a board member on this company as well. We have Elizabeth and Benhoff and also Robert Beidou. So these are the board of directors of the company, per what they have provided on the website of the company. We don't know whether this when was last updated with respect to these individuals being on the board of the Women's World Banking, a savings and loans company that has had their license being withdrawn by the Bank of Ghana.
Gakpo, what did the Bank of Ghana find when they probed the books of the Women's World Banking Ghana Limited?
That their net worth has hit negative 45.5 million Ghana cedis as at May 2019, which means they are capitally impaired, that their adequacy ratio has hit negative 46%, that the institution persistently accumulated losses due to poor loan underwriting, and that they had breached the minimum capital reserve ratio, and as well they failed to implement some of the recommendations of the Bank of Ghana. And according to the Bank of Ghana, as far back as 2017, they found that they were insolvent.
No, but so that raises legitimate questions. If the Bank of Ghana found that they were insolvent as far back as 2.5 years ago, what did they do about it? Did they say what they did about it?
They say they engaged with the board and senior management on a number of occasions on how to restore the institution's paid-up capital and also their capital adequacy ratio, and that the shareholders have not been able to comply with the capital restoration plan that the institution submitted to the BOG back in March 2018, and that proposed an additional capital injection into the entity, which never happened, resulting in this decision
to shut them down. And so a few things we've established already, that Women's World Banking Ghana Limited, which has gone under, they were insolvent as far back as 2017. We've established that Databank had an interest in it. Yeah. Databank, we know, is co-founded by the current finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Questions are allegedly going to be asked going forward. Joseph, let's quickly also go through GN Bank. GN Bank, also founded and owned by Dr. Papa Kwesi Ndom as well. What did they do wrong? What did the Bank of Ghana find?
So, there used to be a bank, they became a savings and loans company. And according to the Bank of Ghana, the institution, ever since they became a savings and loans company, have not been able to resolve its liquidity crisis. And they've not been able to meet majority of the conditions that the Bank of Ghana imposed on them when they were reclassifying them as a savings and loans company. And in fact, the BOG says that the condition of GN Savings and Loans has actually deteriorated since the reclassification, with both negative capital adequacy ratio and a negative net worth. And they also say that the shareholders have failed to restore the bank to the required regulatory capital and liquidity levels, in spite of promises that they had made in the past that they were going to do that. And then this bit about the money that government owes them also comes up here. The Bank of Ghana says, while GN Bank claims that they were looking forward to money that government owed them to deal with all these issues, and that government owed them up to 942 million Ghana cedis, the Bank of Ghana found that they were actually owed 30 million Ghana cedis, which was owed to contractors.
That's a significant difference.
But that's significant. Don't forget that issue was taken to court. We saw some letters that exchanged hands between the Ministry of Finance and GN, them agreeing that they can now verify this 30 million Ghana cedis whilst they take steps to deal with the other issues so that their monies will be paid. And if you look at the other side of it, when you engage some of these institutions, they also claim that they were in the process, and they claim of improving their capital position, dealing with their liquidity issue, and also working with their shareholders to recapitalize the institution. So they claim that they needed a little bit of time to work on these things to improve their position, and also maybe there will not be any need for the Bank of Ghana then to come in with this action. So that is what they were also claiming, that they were in the process of correcting some of these things. But again, if you look at the Women's World Banking issue, then for some of these companies, they were just on life support. Yeah. They were just going to it was just coming.
Bank of Ghana saw that it's not like you were near insolvent. They saw that the Women's World Bank was insolvent. 2017.
When you engage the Bank of Ghana, you know that this issue has been raised about whether they give these companies enough time to work on their challenge.
But that is enough time, is it not?
So the argument was that, okay, this is the problem. Submit your capital restoration plan to us. Let's vet the process and ensure that revoking your license should be the last option. Yeah. So let's see what you are doing, bringing and don't forget that this news about somebody going down and all the rest and blah blah. Yeah, we've dealt with the banking sector, but the news that this was happening. Remember that there were reports last week which we said it wasn't going to happen. It was going to happen. That is the ending of this weekend, maybe possibly on Monday. So the dates were just between today
so it is important
or Monday.
To step in and act on this.
And act so that you contain the situation from getting out of hand. Because every day, people were walking into some of these savings and loans and withdrawing their money. Shareholders who were supposed to reinvest were not doing that. Offshore investors who were supposed to bring income capital were still waiting to see what will happen.
Yeah, and they didn't. Just because the Bank of Ghana had
that
to
uncertainty has caused some rigidity in the system where people say there's no money and all the rest.
But the Bank of Ghana is clear that it threatened the entire financial sector, and so they had to step in to do this. Now we need to spare some thought on how much it's going to cost government to settle everybody who had put in money into this. We haven't been told yet how much government is going to spend to sort of make up for a lot of the monies that they will have to pay to people. Let me go to the Ashanti region. Prince Appiah is connecting with us tonight from the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, where a lot of these savings and loans companies operated. Prince, you've been around. What have you found?
Evans, I should say that the few of them that I've visited, and I keep visiting the rest, I should say that in Ashanti region, there are more than 10 of these 23 savings and loan institutions that have had their licenses revoked. I can go to them. The First Alliance Savings and Loans, Global Access Savings and Loans, GN Savings and Loans, Ideal Finance, Women's World Banking Savings and Loans, Midland Savings and Loans, IFS Financial Services, UniCredit Savings and Loans, Legacy Capital Savings and Loans, First Class Savings and Loans. All these savings and loan institutions have branches here in the Ashanti region. Currently, I'm in front of the First Class Savings and Loans office, and the police just left here and pasted a notice. And the notice states that I read, notice of revocation of licenses of insolvent savings and loan companies and financial houses and appointment of a receiver. So the notice has been placed here, and all the companies that have been affected are also pasted here. I should say that as at the time this was pasted here, no official of the savings and loan institution was in there, and that is exactly what has happened with all the savings and loans institutions that I have visited. They all have this pasted in front of them, and nobody as at the time was in there. I should also add that we've not cited any customer or customers trooping to any of these institutions to find out what has happened or whatsoever. So that is the situation here in the Ashanti region.
Prince, thank you very much. And there's some additional information we are getting from this Bank of Ghana document, very detailed document. Joseph, this is about GN Bank still.
This is about GN Bank, and the Bank of Ghana says their investigations revealed that a significant amount, and here are the amounts, $62.2 million US, 718,000 pounds, and 4,200 euros, which were actually deposited funds, which were being held at GN Bank, had been transferred to a firm called the International Business Solutions, which the Bank of Ghana says is another company owned by Group Indum and which is based in the USA, without any documentation to support such any transfers. And the Bank of Ghana says this was completely in breach of
Which country is this?
In the USA.
Okay, because we know that Dr. Indum
there has some interest in US, of course. So, but if the
banking
Bank of
interest there
Ghana
as well.
for these huge limits, if you are getting it out of the country,
must get
it
some
has
approval.
to be channeled through the system for it to be approved by Bank of Ghana
how
or
the Bank
even
of Ghana,
any commercial bank or something.
How is it possible the Bank of Ghana they flagged this
So
after the money has been
exactly,
transferred already?
and they had conducted an extensive investigation into how that happened, and they are really and they make the point that this is actually in breach of the Foreign Exchange Act 2006.
These are serious, appears to be serious breaches of the law, if indeed what the Bank of Ghana is saying is true. Go on.
And then they say that they had seen a situation where the company had suspended operations in 70 of its branches, including its headquarters in Asylum Down, and suspended its entire management team without the approval of the Bank of Ghana, again contrary to Section 25 of the Banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act, mainly as a result of insolvency and also the liquidity challenges. And again, they say that GN Bank did not keep accounting records in a manner that gives an accurate and reliable account of the various transactions, and did not show, therefore, a true and fair view of their various operations. And again, the Bank of Ghana says they are yet to publish their audited accounts, again contrary to the Banking Act, which they say is a
lot of questions will have to go to Dr. Papakwesi Indum, and they're all in all these cases. They're always two, sometimes three, four sides of the story. This is the Bank of Ghana side we are hearing about the alleged transfer of huge funds to another entity. Dr. Indum had interest in the USA. Now the Bank of Ghana says, and this is a part that I guess most people who had monies with GN Bank or GN Savings and Loans will be keen to pay attention to, that Bank of Ghana says that your funds that you had with GN Bank transferred those funds in significant quantities. Tell us the amount.
So 62 million US dollars, 718,000 pounds, and 4,200 euros.
Transferred those amounts, which the Bank of Ghana says are depositors' funds, correct?
Exactly, to another firm owned by Group Indum
in the
USA called the International Business Solutions, without any documentation to support the transfer, in breach of the banking Act.
And also in breach of the the foreign exchange
Act,
regulations, etc.
2006.
I mean that raises a lot of questions for the Bank of Ghana itself. First of all, why did they detect this post the transfer? And what have they done about it since the detection? Did they tell us when they detected this?
In the document here, it doesn't say.
It doesn't say. And because such huge amounts, especially when these are depositors' funds, at the time when, I don't know when exactly, but at the time when there were concerns about Group Indum's ability to pay its depositors and meet its financial obligations, yet transferring funds to another entity in the US, it didn't even say what steps they are going to take to get these funds returned. I guess the receiver will be interested in reaching these funds, if indeed they are depositors' funds, because if they are going to pay the depositors, these funds are the funds they are going to use to pay the
and it raises a lot of questions about the level of monitoring the whole financial system. I mean, in the past, we've raised questions about monies that are being moved out of this country every day without the necessary approvals, people carrying millions of dollars, flying it on private jets and all the rest and all those things. So that's a very critical one, Evans, that how is the Bank of Ghana itself sharpening its monitoring system to ensure that these things are flagged and they are dealt with? For somebody to move this amount of money out of the country without the required approval, that is very, very critical, Evans.
Okay, listen, we've tried to reach GM Bank for some comment. We've seen documents circulating purporting to come from them. We can't read from that because it's not signed and it's not on the letterhead of GM Bank, and so we can't share that. But we will work the phone lines and see if we can get GM Bank, Dr. Pakwesi Indum himself, because he speaks on these matters, to address these very serious allegations the Bank of Ghana is making against him and his bank. that funds have been transferred. We will get into this a bit more. This is just breaking, and so it's getting very interesting. But listen, thank you, George and Gakpo for that. If you're just joining us, Bank of Ghana has revoked the licenses of 23 banks. Very important conversation, but there's another very important conversation as well. People are saying, why are we not focusing on issues such as the banking sector more and talking about names? Ghana Connect starts right now. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Ghana Connect.